Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to the Foreman demo, where this time we'll see the demo of the Foreman deployments work. We are running the Q&A app, so if you have any questions, please ask, and we'll answer it probably at the end of the demo. So without further introduction, please, Thomas, start sharing, and we can start.
Okay, thanks Ivan for the introduction. This demo is going to be about Foreman deployments and where we got since the last time we demoed. Last time we showed only the design of the deployments, which is documented in our Git repository, and you can find it here with all the details. And now we are already in the implementation phase, and we are heading towards a first release of the gem on the 23rd September. All or most of the code that you will see is not merged yet, and this is quite early preview, but we're showing it because we would like to hear your feedback earlier than later. So today I will split the demo into two parts. First is, in the first one, I will describe how the deployments work and show some example stack definitions. Then I'll probably give some space for questions, and then I will demonstrate the API usage. Since it's been quite some time since the first demo, let me wrap up how deployments work. I'll be using three terms today. First of them is stack. Stack is a definition of the infrastructure that should be deployed, and it consists of tasks, which is the second term, and defines relationships between them and connects output with input of the tasks. And the last term is deployment, which is configured instance of the stack, and it handles the process of installing all the pieces. The process of the deployment, how it works is that first users should write a stack definition, which is later imported into Foreman, and then it can be configured and deployed. We have API for that, which I will show later. And now let's have a look at the example stack definitions. Stack is always defined in a YAML file, and as I mentioned, it consists of tasks. Each task has its ID, which is used for referencing in the configuration and for referencing between the tasks, and it has a type. We use YAML tags for the types, and we used safe YAML gem to make sure no other objects can be created apart from that who we whitelisted. So far, we've implemented three types of tasks. First of them is create resource, and it's there for creating objects in Foreman. In this example, the deployment would create a subnet and with following parameters: name, network, and mask. This is also part of the anatomy of each task, that it takes some parameters, and some of them can be configurable, which I'll show later. Another type of type of task that we implemented is a search task, and it's there for searching existing resources. They are searched at the time the deployment that is running, so it doesn't need to exist when you're defining or configuring the stack. It's the search task alone would be useless, but you can define relationships between the tasks, which we do via specifying reference. And here in this example, if one executed this deployment, it would create a subnet and it would assign it to an existing domain, testdomain.org. How the references work, you always have to specify an object that it references to, which is ID of a task, example domain in our case, and fields that is going to use, because each task has its output and it can be structured, so you can actually select which field will be used. So here all the IDs that will be chosen from this search term would be assigned to the domain IDs here. Maybe I could say something about the background of how it's processed when it's executed. We translate each task to one or in future more Dynflow tasks, and the whole execution is heavily Dynflow driven. I will demonstrate it later, and users have quite a good notion about what's going on, and you can track the whole process via Dynflow console to see where it stopped if anything went wrong. So one more example I have here is defining input. This is important for the configuration phase. Via defining inputs, the stack writer says, this is something I want the users to configure, and it can, so far it can have default value and some description. This is only first simple input that we have, but there is API for registering more. So we in future will for sure add some more complicated inputs like select resource, which will limit users to send only resource IDs or something similar, and plugins can always add their own. The same with tasks. There is an developer's API for defining tasks. So I will show one more real-life stack. It's called Foremanyamla, and it installs Foreman on one machine and the Foreman proxy on another machine and connects them together. I used my own development Puppet classes for that. It's quite a simple example because it's installed via Puppet, and then the machine is still registered in its own Puppet master. The Foreman is installed via SSL and with Puppet disabled and so on. So there's a lot of restrictions, but it's rather an example stack. So here we are creating a host, class host manage. We give it some parameters. The only input value I used here is name, and the rest is hard coded. You can see that I'm using only IDs here, which is first not very convenient, and second not very useful. I could do two things. First of them is to use search task to let the IDs be searched at the runtime, or what we might add in the future to add some helper for finding such IDs. But in this demo, I have the IDs here, so you will need to believe me that these IDs are these Puppet classes at the instance. Second task here is wait until build, and it's a third type of task that we implemented, and I haven't talked about that. And its purpose is simple. It waits until a host is provisioned and fully configured. So it waits for second successful Puppet run. This is task for creating the proxy. Here we can see that my Puppet scripts take, I have only ID here, but it's Foreman deployments proxy install Foreman URL, and I'm putting IP address from the facts of the host, of the server host, when it's provisioned. And I wait also until the proxy is provisioned too. Unfortunately, I can't show this today because it takes a lot of time. But what would happen if I executed it would be that hosts would be created with attributes, then Dimeflow would execute wait until build task, and it periodically checks status of the host, and when it's done, it takes all the output with facts and saves it. Then second host is created, and we start waiting for it to. Currently, there's a limitation that blocks Dimeflow to start provisioning both hosts at the same time. But you can write the stack the way that you can work it around, so it shouldn't matter for the first release.
Yeah, there's also a question regarding this. If all the tasks are the task schedules are sequential, Dimeflow actions, or is there a way to specify concurrent actions too? So we can probably answer that.
Yeah, the way how it works is that you specify dependencies, and Dimeflow calculates the order and whether it's concurrent or not. Actually, why this is all sequential is because the instance I'm running it at is has the SQLite database, and I had some issues with concurrent access to database, so I had to put one more dependency here in the after to create the proxy host after the first host, and this resulted in this sequential behavior. But in other examples, which you will, by the way, see later, it will work concurrently. So we are not limited to sequences. I have a bit simplified example which I will run today. I call it two hosts, and it's actually the same. The only difference is that we don't install Foreman and the proxy. So there's one dependency missing. It can run concurrently, and we only set up message of the day there. Okay. So that was for the stack definition. I'm probably going to show the usage of the API now. So I would see this as a first pause for questions, if there are any.
Yeah, we have two additional questions. So one of them is if the safe YAML gem is packaged as an RPM, or if you will ship maintain it. Good job.
I don't think it's packaged, and we'll probably need to package it and maintain. It's a drawback of using YAML and the text, but on the other hand, for example, compared to JSON, it gives us the possibility to add some comments in the code and structure it better.
Thanks. And another question is if there is an API to build these stack YAML files, or if it's expected for the user to create these files outside of Foreman.
Users need to create this outside the Foreman, and they import it into Foreman, and Foreman tells you whether it's valid or not upon the import.
Okay, thanks. No other questions so far.
Okay, so let me show the API. When we have this stack defined, the next step would be to import it into Foreman. There's an API entry point post to API text for that, and it takes name and the YAML definition as a string. There's also other entry points as usual. You can list saved stack and get information about them. The same for deployments. You can create a deployment based on a stack, and every deployment is named. When the deployment is created, you can configure it, and I will show the API later how that works. Those are the main API methods to use, and the last one is obviously entry point for running deployment. But I will show it live in the console. It's not very convenient to work directly with the API, so I created a small utility deployment. It's nothing that will be distributed with the gem. It's just for the purposes of the demo. What it does is that it calls the API in the background and prints the output, nothing else. But we get it in the console, and it's colored, so it was easier to use than as URL. But first, I will list stacks that are available. I have actually imported the first one to host with MOTD. So I will it's in info API parsed stack with all the information and pre-configured values. So in the under definition key, you can see all the hosts with the configurations and with some additional data like type and name of the task, and also inputs, which will be important for users of the API that are going to create some wrappers around that. I have one very simple wrapper here to show you too. Yeah, and we have the Foreman weight, proxy weight, and that's all. So I can create a stack. Oh, sorry, deployment. Which I actually did too. It would be nothing but post to a given API entry point. So I show it. It shows me a response that at the first glance looks very similar, but it contains the configuration. This deployment is not configured yet, but we will do it now. Plus, it shows me errors from the validation. I have no idea why we have these twice here. It's some bug that we will need to fix. When I want to configure the deployment, the values that I need to post or put to the entry point are actually JSONs that contain the correct keys. So if I wanted to put the name for this host, I would need to specify Foreman host, params, and name. I actually have it prepared here in YAML that I will parse and put there. So the Foreman host, params, name, and the value here. And I can put as many values at once as I want. The server side parses the JSON and sets it accordingly. So I can set name for Foreman host and for proxy host at once. Maybe first I've mentioned that the information about the inputs can be parsed, and there are some additional data for that. So I have one small example here that I use for development, and it's stack inputs. Number 3, fine. And it shows me available input in the deployment and which resources they belong to and whether there are some errors. I have deployed it already, so it tells me that the name test deployment Foreman and test deployment proxy is already taken, and it also tells me that it's default value. Have it already there, so I'm going to configure it something else. Use no and test those two. And when I look at the inputs again, it should be correct. Yeah, it's error is gone, and we have new names set. The inputs are there for telling the users what they can or what the stack writer intended them to change, but actually any parameter defined in the task can be changed, or any parameter that is not defined in the task can be changed. So when something is hard-coded, like the organization ID, and I'll try to configure it, the API will yell at me that I can't do that. I will try to do an attempt, and you see you can't override hard-coded values in the stack. Definitely. We left the option of configuring non-hard-coded values open because it would be very difficult to specify a stack that is universal, and one would need to put input for everything. So you can configure anything that's not hard-coded and anything that's outside the input, but it's not guaranteed that the stack will work then. By the way, one idea that I got right now, what I forgot to mention, will in future will provide some validators for the values. So the plan is that you'll be able to specify, I don't know, like this, or expression. So the plan is to enable stacking validators one on each other. Okay. So back to the console. We've got it configured. So the last step would be to run the deployment. I will via the utility. So when I do switch to the window with the server, it plans some Dynflow tasks, which will start to be executed. And you see that first host has been created, and provisioning has started. When I go to Foreman and refresh the host page, we should already see there. Takes some time. Okay, now we see both of the hosts. Both are already provisioning, and when I go to the Dynflow console, I see a new task, stack deploy action, which is running and still pending. When I go there, we see that both hosts has been created, and there are two tasks that are waiting for them to be finished. So that was it for the configuration demo. Last thing I wanted to show is the developer's API for registering their own tasks. There is Foreman deployments.registry prepared, which has methods for registering tasks and inputs, and the only thing that's necessary is to put it into initializer of your plugin and create a correct descendant of a base class and register it here, and then you will be able to use it in your stacks. If you didn't do that and tried to add some non-existing resource here, the stack parser would again raise an exception. Okay, so that was for the demo. Now it's time for questions again.
We have no questions on Q&A. Let me check also the RC. I don't see anything there as well. We might get some delay, so we may wait, let's say 5 minutes, and if nothing shows up, we can sum up.
Okay, if nothing appears, we will for sure send link to a recording of this demo session, so people can always ask on the mailing list in answer to the email with the link, and we will reply offline.
There is one question in the questions app.
Yeah. The question is, I might have missed them. Are there any web UI pages related to the stacks, or is it just API?
It's just API for the moment. We are starting with the principles and want to hear the feedback, and the API will be quite complicated. So we first want to prove that this is what people like and this works to people's use cases, and then we will add the UI, because it's quite complex task to create UI for something that is defined in the stack. One note: also the API is not finished yet. Of course, the deployment show entry point will reply also with status of the deployment, whether it's in the configuration phase, whether it's deploying already, or whether it's deployed. And if it's deploying or deployed, it will contain also references and states of the Dynflow tasks, so that the progress can be tracked. But it hasn't been implemented yet. But in the first release, there will be only API.
Thanks. So no other questions are there. So we can probably sum up the deep dive or the demo, and we can follow up with the questions on the IRC or better in the Foreman Dev mailing channel.
Yep, I agree. So thank you for your attention. As I said at the beginning, the very first release will be on the 21st September, or at least this is the date we're heading to so far. So stay tuned, and please let us know what you think.
There is one question: what's the best way to supply feedback later?
Mailing list, please. Use Foreman Devel.
Okay, so thank you everyone, and see you later.
Thank you. Bye.